teach mostly developmental psychology, but I teach a couple of intros online also. For many, many years, I did research into why there are underprepared students that come to college, what makes you underprepared. And so I'll get a little bit more into that, but I really do want to know who's here so that I can kind of tailor what we talk about directly to the population that's here. So if you would maybe tell me your name and what you do here, whether you're a student, if you're a student, what your major is, and if you're an employee, what you're employed to do. So I want to start with you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm a student here, and I'm studying for the PTA program.
Okay, cool.
Jimmy Webb, I'm with security on campus.
Okay.
I'm Lynn Fondy, and I work at Liberal Arts as an assistant,
Oh.
administrative assistant.
Okay.
I'm Christy Summerall. I work in the financial aid department, administrative coordinator, front counter, and I am a student here as well.
And the program?
Louisiana Transfer Business.
Okay, cool.
Kim Cox, I'm faculty with the PTA program.
Okay.
Laura Jones, I'm program coordinator for Nick Center.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tweety Tucker, I work in the student success office.
Okay, cool. So we've got a couple of students. So we'll talk a little bit about what it means to be self-regulating as a student, and then what it may mean to you in your positions that aren't necessarily direct student contact in the classroom, but in supportive areas, and then for classroom stuff. So, and there's Brenda coming. Hey, Brenda. So anytime you want to start that.
Okay.
So let me tell you a little bit of how I became interested in self-regulation, the boring research part of this, and then we'll get to some application, which is always where it's so much more fun. Probably the late 1980s into the early 90s, I was working on my dissertation in developmental education, and one of the faculty members, she just had come on board, and she said, you know, what makes a student a developmental student? And developmental is a student that comes to school and needs some preparatory work to get up to college level. Well, the easy answer to that is the ACT score. If you score below this, you're developmental. If you score above that, you're not. Now, when you ask the folks at ACT, they say, please don't use my test that way, because that's not what it's for. Although the thing that ACT does best is predict college success, and it's actually very good at that. If you score high on the ACT, you will be successful in college. If you score low on the ACT, chances are you're going to struggle a little bit with college. So we began to, the joke was, well, it can't be just the ACT score, because the ACT score is a type of measure of intelligence. Here's a newsflash for those of you that are students. If you're not intelligent, we can't affect any change in you. As faculty members, as teachers, we can't change your intelligence. We can educate you, but that's not intelligence. So if the ACT is a measure of intelligence, is what makes you developmental or not, I can't do anything about that. And as a faculty member, it really makes me want to throw my hands up and go, then what am I doing here? So we came to the point it cannot simply be a matter of intelligence that causes someone to be underprepared when they arrive at college. So we began to ask faculty, why are students this way? And we got a whole bunch of different answers. Probably the number one answer was they are not motivated. Students who come to college not prepared are not motivated. So we took a look at that first. So motivation. There's really only one way to measure motivation, and that is by effort. How much effort are you willing to expend? Here's what we found out. Students who come to college underprepared were as motivated or more motivated than students who come to college and are prepared. And when you hear that, you're going, that cannot be right. Yeah, actually it can. Because when you look at this population who are coming underprepared, we're going to tell them when they get here, you're gonna have to take 4 or 5 extra classes just to graduate. And their response is, okay, get me into them, get me through them, and let me get on. So their motivation was at least equal to or higher than students who came to school prepared, which is awesome. You gotta have that, particularly when you're coming and getting told, you need to take 3 extra maths, 2 extra Englishes, a reading, and a study skills course just to get to the college classes. What's motivation to get through all that? So the next thing we heard was they don't have the proper study skills. It's all about study skills. And what we call those when we looked at them were actually cognitive skills. And we'll look at one here. Cognitive skills. We also looked at cognitive styles. And for those that are really fun, we looked at learning styles also. Cognitive skills, those skills you need to study. You know, how do you read a book? You know, how do you take notes? 2 things we discovered here. One, students that come to school unprepared know what they're supposed to do. And when you ask them on a questionnaire, do you do this? They will tell you, yes, I do. Because even if they don't do them, they know they should do them. So cognitive skills, there was no difference. They knew what it took. They didn't necessarily know how to deploy that, and that's where the other research came in. Cognitive styles are ways you think. No difference. All over the map. Learning styles are your preferred learning style, whether you like to learn by reading or by watching or by hearing, or whether you're a kinesthetic learner. You know, the standard rule of thumb is, well, they really like to learn by doing. Bottom line is everybody likes to learn by doing. The trouble is we can't always learn by doing. You know, if you want to scare someone to death, tell them, you must write a research paper. And they're going, what? Yeah, no, that's how you learn to write. You write a research paper. And truly, it is, but no one wants to start there. So what we found, all of these things that people kept saying was, this is the difference, this is the difference, was no difference. In one area, we found they were probably even a little more motivated than people who came to school prepared. But what we did see, and it came out through cognitive skills, 2 things. You can't ask pointed questions of these students because they know what they should be doing, they may not know how to do it. But what we began to realize was that there were some skills that they didn't have. And they weren't cognitive skills. They were actually what are called self-regulatory skills. Self-regulation is the ability to monitor yourself to make sure you do those things that are required to be successful. Successful people do it all the time. Successful people do it all the time and can't tell you that they're doing it. Successful people do it all the time and can't even tell you where they learned how to do it. I mean, I've actually looked, and it's probably, if you do this, you probably picked it up about the 3rd or 4th grade. And you don't know that you did. We can tell you there's a group of students that pick it up, there's a group of students that don't. The group that do will end up fast-tracked when they get to middle school, and the group that don't will end up in the other track. We used to call them VOTEC and college tracks. That is literally how they divide out, by self-regulation. So self-regulation is, I'm going to come back to self-efficacy in just a second, but it really is about a series of monitoring strategies. Now what we did, we learned you couldn't ask students, do you take notes in class, Kim? Because Kim would say, yes. Even though Kim doesn't, she knows she should. So what we did was begin an interview process. And we interviewed students who were identified as being underprepared and students who were identified as being prepared and ready for college. So Kim, tell me how you take notes in class.
Listen to what the teacher says, and if it seems important, I write that down.
And that's pretty much what a prepared student would say. Underprepared students would typically respond with, I just write down whatever the teacher says. And then we say, and then what do you do? So Kim, and then what do you do?
Look over those notes later, maybe compare it to what was in the book.
What we found was prepared students could give you a long list of things they did with the notes. Underprepared students often couldn't tell you how they took notes and almost never did anything with them after they got the notes. We'd ask them questions like, how do you prepare to go to class? Well, if you're a self-regulating student, I mean, for me, my joy is school supplies. There is nothing more fun than new school supplies. Underprepared students often don't have school supplies because really, what would you do with school supplies? So when I would say, my favorite one was I was interviewing a prepared student. I said, so tell me what you do with your notes. She opened her notebook and there were her handwritten notes, then her typewritten notes from her handwritten notes, which were highlighted in different colors. Pink was for one thing and blue was for another. I mean, I'm going, I don't need to finish the interview with this person. This is a self-regulating person. I can just look and see. So what we discovered were there were 4 components missing from underprepared students. Being prepared, organized, the ability to monitor and evaluate. Now, this doesn't sound like much, but when you think in terms of students who aren't prepared, and this is for faculty and those that work directly hands-on with students, our research really wasn't about the students because I don't teach. I only teach developmental students secondhand. I teach them in courses where they should already have finished reading and writing when they get to me, but they still might struggle, and I do know they struggle. So our theory was, how can I as a faculty member build this into my instruction so that I'm not teaching it to students, because I don't have time to teach psychology and this. I have time to teach psychology, but if I build this into my instruction, it can help my students. So prepare is very simple. Be prepared for class. Well, it's not even that. I mean, the preparation is, do you have something to write with? Do you have something to write on? Do you have the book? Do you have whatever other materials a faculty member says that you need for this class, and can you get your hands on them? If you've ever seen the inside of a student's backpack, often could be the most disorganized place on the planet, superseded only by the back seat of their vehicle, which often they use as a filing system. Not a good one. So that's prepared. Do you have all your stuff together? A great faculty member here has an organizational strategy that helps her students with prepare. She doesn't let them in the classroom without them. She meets them at the door. Do you have your 2 pencils? And that's the cost of admission. One day is 2 pencils. The next day it's actually student ID card. Cost of admission today is student ID card. She is teaching preparation without actually teaching preparation. Do you have your papers today? Where's your book? So, and literally within 3 or 4 weeks of the semester, she stops that because they have gained that preparation skill. They have all their tools that they need. So that's prepare. It's not enough to say, this is the list of things you have to have. You've got to build in some way of supporting them to make sure they've got them. I lecture directly from my textbook. So you have to have that textbook. When I see students in class without a textbook, I show them their scores and how they are different from those people who have a textbook. because it directly impacts outcomes. So you gotta be prepared. Organize. Organize goes to this backpack issue. How do you have your materials organized? Can you find them? Can you get your hands on them? I'm gonna tell you a really simple organization strategy in just a second. But I found this cool at school supplies. Look, it has 2 pockets. Yes, I know, and then there's another one in the back.
Trapper keeper.
So got my trapper keeper, but it's got all my stuff. This is how I keep my goals and projects straight because I've got a lot of different projects going on. This is my organization. I've tried other things. I would love to be electronic, people. I have tried it. I carry my phone. I make reminders and alarms in my phone. Cannot get electronic with it. But electronic is a great system if you can do it. I bought an iPad with the whole notion that was going to become my organizational system. No, it's my book, it's my movie theater, it's all sorts of things, but it is not my organizational system. So I'm old-fashioned, this is it. Doesn't mean that organization can't take place in that electronic system. I do tell all my students in class, I don't want to see, hear, or feel your phone until I get ready to go over the calendar, and then I'll tell you to pull them out. Because if you can use them, I want you to use them. In organization, let me tell you a little study I did here at Dipsy. I had students, they had to bring a calendar to class. It could also be electronic. And every day, I'm going to go over the calendar in class. And that is still my ritual. At the end of every class session, we go over the next couple of days of what we're going to do in class. In this class, I required them to write it down. 3 times throughout the semester, they had to show me that they were keeping track. Now, I want you to know first, I had students ask me, is it okay if we did this in other classes too? Please. Some of them couldn't ever come up with a calendar, but I made them one on, I took a Word document and made a table and gave it to them, and they used that. As an organizational strategy, listen to this. This is so bizarre. Even having a calendar, whether or not you used it, having a calendar predicted a passing grade in the class. A C or better. Those that were never able to come up with a calendar or even get the page printed out of Blackboard that I had put in there, they made a D and F in the class. Just possessing one. C or better. So I still tell my students today, nothing will give you greater lead towards success than having a calendar and using it. So again, I seriously would love to be the electronic person. I am just not able. But I have lots of students that are successful with that. They set reminders for themselves and alarms through that. So that's organized. Just even keeping a calendar. And think about yourselves, those of you that aren't students but faculty, how many systems you have like that to keep yourself where you're supposed to be. Between a Tuesday and a Thursday, I teach 7 classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have a chart that tells me where I'm supposed to be because I am never in the same classroom 2 sections in a row. I'm on the 3rd floor, I'm on the 2nd floor, I'm on the 1st floor, I'm on the 3rd floor, I'm on the 1st floor. And I have once ended up in the wrong place. And I got there and going, where are they? Oh, they're in the other room. I have had students come and go, where are we today? I don't know. But I have an organizational system for that. Here, these 2 things are great by themselves, but they demand this. You have to monitor where you are, what you're doing. You cannot be the person that goes, what do you mean there's an assignment due tomorrow? You got that information the first day of class. One of the things I show my students is you could make a little chart. And of course, I love making little charts. But you could make you a little checklist that says we'll do and you've got a big assignment due here, and a test here, and a test here. So you can literally check off as they go. How am I doing? Am I up to speed? Can just, if I don't mind passing around, to monitor my projects. I have this little project sheet. I'll pass them around. You can look at them. There's nothing. But it just, project sheets get moved from monitoring to daily to-do lists so that I can knock out little pieces. But you have to monitor where you are. You also have to monitor your grades. You know, the number of students who are underprepared that think grades are magic is pretty appalling. So when you get to the end of the semester, they're going, how did I have a D in this class? Well, let's look at your grades. See here, we haven't passed any of these tests. That's the D. Oh. So you have to monitor all along. I build in monitoring to my classes. I have quarterly for a semester, a quarter, a half, a 3/4, and 3/4 comes up really close to the drop date. And at 1/4 time, I email you and say, you're not passing right now. Either change your strategies or get out. Because you can fix a W, you can't fix an F. The most standard line I hear is, it'll hurt my financial aid. Here's my response. You can make more money fixing an F when your transcript is going to take forever. All you're going to have to do is get 2 part-time jobs to come up with enough money for tuition and replace that class. Halftime, I will tell them again. At the 3/4 time where we're so close to the drop date, I will tell you, you're about to damage something that's going to take you forever to fix. And I do have students that'll come and say, show me, and because we have to look at it, because that monitoring is not very effective. So what monitoring, building in checks and balances for where you are. The last one is kind of the most evasive for all of us. You have to evaluate how you're doing. When you go, you know, I'm feeling pretty good about this. And then you look and go at your grades when you're monitoring, you're going, but the teacher is not feeling as nicely as I am about this. You've got to figure out, and students are, I think students at BIPSI are better at doing this than most, well, certainly at university level. Go ask the teacher. And they're pretty good at hunting down teachers to go, what is going on here? You have to be able to explain it. I had one of our former math teachers here. One of the things she did for me for Evaluate was she gave extra credit in 097 math and 098 math if students could calculate their grade at any given point in the semester and bring it to her. I'm going, well, that is brilliant. They're evaluating where they are, and they're using the math skills that she is building into them. It never occurred to me to do that. But that's an evaluation process, looking at where you are and seeing if you're going to make it. And one of the bad strategies community college students seem to have is this, I can persist and make it through. You know, hard work will get me what I want. It will not. So you have to be able to evaluate and say, I'm not quite there. What's the good strategy for getting out of this? Now, in all of this, and I've said several times, you have to have strategies for each of these. There's strategies for prepare, organize, calendar's a good one there, monitor and evaluate. Let me tell you something I've observed with community college students that it defies all research findings, and I haven't figured out how to assess it. All the research says when a student has a strategy that's not working, they will abandon it and pick up a new strategy. Community college students don't seem to do that. When they have a strategy that's not working for them, they will persist in that strategy just to prove it's not working for them. And then when it's still not working, they will keep doing that strategy. There is no throwing up your arms and going, This ain't working. And you know, what's further frustrating for me is you could go to the Learning Center and ask an expert, and they will say, well, here's what I would do. You could go to any instructor on this campus who are all self-regulated learners and say, you know, this isn't working, what do I need to do? And every student, every faculty member on this campus could say, well, try this instead. But they will persist. And here's the one that's more frustrating. They will ask their friends sitting next to them in class, what are you doing? Going, okay, you know, we need to ask an expert, not, you know, the person sitting next to us. And we have tons of experts here, but they don't. And I finally have just gotten to where I've told my students, look, if it's not working, stop. Come and get me. And that is a bit because mine's all reading, my text is all reading. Because that's one of their strategies. Everybody in here has read a text that they don't understand. Right? You're reading along and you're going, oh my God, what is that? So what do? Anybody, you're reading along in any text. It could even be a novel for that matter. What do you do when you come to a word you don't know?
Look it up.
Well, you look it up. And now it's really easy because if you're looking on your Kindle, you just hold down on it and it pops up with the definition. Students who are not self-regulating don't monitor that. They just assume if I just keep reading, it'll come to me. And I know everybody in here that's been reading a complicated text has read something 3 or 4 times going, I'll get it. Okay, I'm not. Right? These students will just keep reading. And I found the number one problem they have on my test is vocab. They don't understand the vocab. So I've really kind of been stressing we have to monitor whether or not we know what words are. And it's, you know, for PTA, you're building vocab. You know, the nursing program, that's all I ever tell them. You're coming up with an entirely new vocabulary. So don't say that you know it. You don't know it. Look it up. Or, you know, you've got your phone right there, find the dictionary. But you've got to have strategies that work. If they don't work, throw them away. Ask an expert what your strategies are.
I hate acronyms.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own system for that.
Yeah.
And whatever you get into, there's a new system of acronyms that everybody else gets who's been there, but the new, you know, you can't look that up.
Yeah. They're, the one that gets me when we were writing up all the stuff on self-regulation, we decided to go with, because self-regulation, I mean, who wants to type that out 30 times in a document? So we came up with SR as the abbreviation for that. Yeah, which when you're in psychology means stimulus response. So they're like, well, we don't understand what the stimulus response was. And I'm going, oh, wow, I didn't even think of that. So we changed it to this, self-regulated learning, which made it a little easier. And all that, one thing I do want to point out that we looked at that was a little off the track of self-regulation was self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is that you have the belief that you are able to accomplish a task that you put your mind to. People with high self-efficacy are likely to engage in the behaviors that cause them to be successful. Dale Shunk, who's done most of this work, says that he believes 70% of your success is related to self-efficacy, your belief that you can be successful. Now, if you're a student here, 70% is a C and it gets you through. So literally just showing up, paying attention, and doing the things that would cause you to be successful will cause you to be successful. So one of the things that we looked at, we went back to look at self-efficacy because I was concerned that students came without that. Because, I mean, if you've been beaten down so much, you didn't like high school, you're here in college and they keep telling you you're having to take more courses, are you going to be self-efficacious? So what we did was we asked them, we did math, because, you know, who likes math? So again, one little sheet of paper had 10 problems on it, and it said, could you solve this problem, and then rate how likely you are to solve this problem. First one was addition, Second was fractions, multiplication, division, some of that quadrilateral lingo doozy whatsy. Number 10 was calculus. And we got a Math 098 class handed on the piece of paper and said, predict your level of success in solving those. And I mean, you should see there was like, the majorities had an 85% success, said they could solve that calculus problem at the end. Then we actually gave them a piece of paper to see if they could solve it. Nobody could solve the calculus problem, although 85% of them believed they could solve the calculus problem. That's math efficacy. That is a belief. And when you show that to the faculty members, are going to go, if they'll do what I tell them to do, eventually, yes, they'll solve a calculus problem. So our students do come with tremendous self-efficacy. The breakdown becomes in this part in the application. They believe they can do it. They need now the skills, the strategies, if you will, to do that. So what questions? How could we apply this? How could you apply it?
I teach in the clinical program, so.
Sure.
I mean, I have a very well-prepared group of students that end up in
Yeah.
the program, but even amongst that core group, I see a wide, well,
Yeah,
they're very
these two.
organized.
Yeah, that's where you're going to run into trouble in clinicals if you're not organized and monitoring how you're doing.
The gap I do sometimes see though is for students who a particular strategy has worked okay for them to get through their prereqs. The pace of clinicals is so much different and it usually requires a shift in strategy and they don't all
They cannot make that shift.
modify to that very well. So those that can detect, monitor that other strategy, I don't have time to do it that way anymore. Like for the student, I'll hear this from my students. Now I'm used to rewriting all my notes and writing the notes and then making flashcards for the notes and then they have these multi-step things they
Yeah.
used to do. Well, you don't have
You don't
time
have
to do
time
that.
to
There's too much
clinicals to do
material.
that.
So
Something you might have to alert them to as they enter clinicals is you're switching from acquisition of information to application of information, and the strategies used here aren't going to make a good transition over here. You might have to come up with something else. It's a great thing to alert them to because they are not going to make a strategy switch on their own, a lot of them, but if they were told, they might. So yeah, that's a great example.
we ramped the prepare thing up a notch.
Oh,
So
sure.
we do a lot of pre-lecture assignments, like you have to already get this core content
Mhm.
before you even step in the door, because
Yeah,
you're gonna
right.
be applying it.
Mhm.
So if you're still struggling with the basic, you're already behind.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the steps are the same,
Mhm.
even with my clinical students.
Yeah, moving them into clinicals. Yeah, awesome. Because you're out in the world doing scary stuff.
How do you apply those steps if you're in a student service area? Like I see a lot of this every day, but we're not the teacher, so we're suggesting stuff, but how do you suggest it
Sure.
not knowing what can be applied or what should be applied?
Sure. So, and it's Linda? You're
Laura.
Linda? Laura, so you're talking with a student, and the first thing you might do is, can I see your book? Do you have your book?
We do that stuff already.
Well, clearly that is an important step.
Yeah.
Because I'm betting you gotta be close to 40 to 50% are going, yeah, I don't have the book.
They come to the learning center with no pencil, no paper, they just throw us the assignment sheet and say, I don't understand this, explain it. And so then
Yep.
I've got the prepare and organize down because we do that a lot.
Mhm.
It's the other two. How do I do this?
Sure. So monitor, part of the problem I think you're gonna have in the Learning Center is they're probably not coming to you until they've ready to hit the panic button.
Or hit it, yeah.
Yeah, they're hitting it and you're it. They're
Exactly.
wanging on your, yeah. So the first thing I would have point out as a tutor or something is, we're pretty far down the road here. You might have considered coming in a little earlier. Now, we can help you, but it's gonna be a little more panic mode than it would have been if you'd been here a week or 10 days earlier.
Right.
So alerting them to the fact that they have to attend to that. And you could have your people maybe suggest some strategies. A calendar would be great. Great thing to monitor.
Mhm.
And that, for me, I think that is my issue with electronic. I need to see the month.
Right,
Seeing the day does not help me in the least at all.
right.
But when I see this, I'm going,
You're putting
Oh,
in context,
look.
yeah.
10 days out, I have a paper due.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you could do. I would ask, maybe one thing, how have you done in the past stuff in this class? And they're going to tell you, I've done all right. I would say, can you print out, give me your grades and bring them to me. Print them out for me.
I can't ask.
You can't ask for grades. Well, I would tell them to go get them for themselves. Because the awareness you need to create it, you said it, they don't know. Our catchphrase for this is they don't know, but have them go look, how are you doing? And then set up some things. If this happens, what are some reasons? So if you make a D on this paper, what are some of the things that result? Do you get a chance to do it again? Do you have other big assignments that are going to help you make up this slack? And can we go ahead and start working on those now? Have you dug yourself into a hole from which there is no escape? And let's face it, it's college. There is an escape. It's not an attractive one.
Yeah.
But who was at admissions? You were at admissions for a little while? Financial aid. Was anybody working in admissions?
I was in business for a while.
In business? In admissions, when you do that, calculate your GPA math to see what it takes to fix an F,
It's awful.
it's untenable.
It's pretty
Well,
bad.
and then students try to get to the level to get into some competitive programs.
Yeah.
And the stuff that happened 5 years ago that's still on their transcript. and
They're still trying to fix
making
that.
cumulative
Yeah.
GPA. Now they wish.
Yeah.
I knew I was doing bad, I should have gotten out of that.
Yeah.
And can I make a suggestion
Yeah.
on the monitor and evaluate?
Please.
Because it'd be so good if you could get some diagnostics, and the instructor probably could give you this. I don't know how, the mechanism or how you would get this, but there's a big difference, even amongst my students, between missing a question because you just didn't spend enough time on that content, you just don't know the content, vocabulary.
Yeah.
And then there's that whole other class of students that have a pretty good handle on the content, but test taking.
Yeah.
So they just are not good at picking out keywords and even figuring out what the question is asking. And so they miss it because they don't know what they were being asked. They don't miss it because they don't know the content.
We're going to hopefully have something in place for that too. We have the open campus. I'm working on open campus at 099 so that there will be videos available. That will be available for fall.
Because then I could, say you need.
You
to
could
go-
assign diagnostics,
Yes, I could
essentially.
assign a video. Well, the
Yeah.
problem that I have, not really a problem, it's sort of fascinating to me. Their self-efficacy is
Mhm.
huge.
It is,
And
it's
like-
massive.
It's like they're coming to me searching for, I'm gonna give them the answer that agrees with them.
Yeah.
The teacher's the bad guy and I agree with them and they're doing everything right.
Mhm.
And that's not
Yeah.
the case, so.
That's That's kind of universal.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I am the hardest grading faculty member on campus. I know this is not the truth, but I do feel that way because that's what I'm told by my students all the time. And it's like, no, I am telling you, I know some of them science people and they're way harder than me. So, but those are some good strategies to take. Anything you can think of, because you're going to be, you're aware of these 4 things.
Right.
If you can come up with ways as you're dealing, and it's going to be individual, prescriptive for each of them, that helps. But again, calendar, that's such a huge.
I wish if everybody had a calendar, because when they come to us, in the library part of it, we're asking all those, it's like we're interviewing them, we're asking them question after question, do you have this, do you have? No, I just know that it's due, I think, in a couple of days. But if they had that calendar that you talk about, I've heard you talk about that calendar before, that could be so much smarter, so much further ahead,
Procrastination.
skillful,
Yep.
like you say, some of the stuff that they have to have, it's like, it was due 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
They have actually missed class.
Yeah.
To get
the work done, yeah.
Well,
And
is
it's-
this something that could be done during registration? Have a sample calendar and tell all new students, this is gonna be your Bible? behind? 'Cause some of them
Um,
don't even read their syllabus.
They don't
Oh,
even
no,
know the
they don't.
teacher's name.
yeah, they don't know.
Yeah, fascinates me.
Right.
Yeah, they don't know teachers' names. You know, I marvel, my office is up on the 3rd floor of E, and I find nothing more fascinating than the first couple of days of registration. Because it's kind of quiet up on my floor. The only people coming up there to come to see one of the 3 of us in our office, but the number of students coming to find where their classrooms are. And I'm like, oh, you're going to be so successful. I just want to give you a little hug and you'll be fine. Because the rest of them are like, do you know where this is? I mean, the number of arguments I've had to have that is building E and that is building G. With students telling me, no, I'm supposed to be in this room. Yes, but it's in another building. No, this is G. No, trust me. They won't let me work in building G. This is E. So yes, the calendar thing is so, and it's, we used to, I think even back on the old campus, we used to give every student a calendar during registration. I think Sonny Cadero had them done by somebody. Now, I can also tell you we found big stacks of them everywhere when they were jettisoned. But yeah, just telling them. And let's face it, pretty much every student has a phone. Every student has a calendar. So let them use those. Teach them how to use those. I have students tell me all the time they've got little apps, and we share that in class, how they can better monitor and get organized with that information.
The
Yeah.
thing that disturbs me the most, I think, is the number of students who think, well, they'll come in there and tell us, I haven't been going to class because my financial aid's not done. What does that have to do with you going to class? That doesn't have anything to do with you going to class, and that's part of that being prepared and organized. You have to know, I'm supposed to be in class, whether my financial aid is done or not. I need to be in this class.
I had 2 students this semester on the same day, within a half hour of each other, and we were in the 3rd week of class. They came to my office and said to me, they both said exactly the same thing. I really thought I was being punked. They came and said, I'm ready to come to class now. Okay. Oh, I wasn't sure what that meant. I said, well, you haven't been so far. No, but I'm ready now. Okay, well, this is where we meet, and I'll be happy to see. Now, I haven't seen either one of them since then, but so clearly they weren't as ready as they had imagined that they were. But you're the student in PTA. Tell us what you do. Do you have a calendar? We're just asking. See, can you use your electronic device?
No, I'm not good.
God, see, I know, I need someone to find somebody that can do
I
that.
get distracted because there's apps, there's games.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Get away from that. Oh, text message.
Yeah, there's a text box. I know, it's
I have to
awful.
get away from it.
It's as bad as drunk driving.
Yes.
It seriously is. It's as bad, it's as distracting as drinking while driving. So if you can't drink and drive, you can't text and be in my class. That's kind of the rule. So you're doing all this.
Yes, but I got to a point where I get lost. Like the whole strategy thing, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna work. It's
Yeah.
gonna work, but it
Yeah,
doesn't
you
work.
throw it away. You go ask your teacher, okay, this didn't work for me, tell me what to do. Because I have students that are online students that I've had in class, and they're very comfortable coming to me and going, what do I do? I'm going, well, do this and try this and try this, and then we'll look over their test together. And I said, okay, let me just tell you what I see in your test. You didn't know this information. You did not follow the strategy that we laid out. And they're like, no, I didn't. Okay, so we're not ditching a strategy that hasn't been applied yet. So they've gone back and done it, and we're seeing improvement. But yeah, when a strategy fails you, I mean, I would say give it another shot, but never twice. Then move on and find a new strategy. Like I said, there's tons of experts around here. Every teacher here has an education, so they're an expert student, if nothing else. They can come up with a strategy that'll help. So, and I would say that's probably the number one thing students need to do is when you're struggling, every teacher wants you to get through. My goal, my only purpose, despite all the other stuff that they say we have to do, my only purpose is to get students educated, get them ready for a job, and get them a career.
And they have to know that the teacher wants them to succeed.
Mhm.
Because we get students you know, still they come in, oh, well, she doesn't seem, or he doesn't seem like he's interested, he doesn't care whether or not I get this or not, and I know that's not true. But the students do have to know that they can succeed, and that's where the teacher, our department comes, anybody, staff, whatever, you know, we can do this, and once they realize that they can do that, they can get that.
They do.
that.
And and I can sense that some probably what you're seeing a reflection of is when students come to the instructor without having done any self-analysis at all.
Yeah.
Fix this.
Yeah.
I'm doing bad, fix this.
Mhm.
If an instructor can sense or see evidence that the student is doing some self-evaluation, and they might not actually know what they should be self-evaluating. Like there's probably a piece that could be a standard list that could be, that the faculty member could give to this. Here are some things to consider.
Mhm.
You know, are you,
That's a great.
and helping them with some diagnostics.
Mhm.
Because again, there's a huge difference between, you know, I hear students say all the time, I'm just not a good test taker. I knew that material, I'm just not a good test
Yeah.
taker. And then I look back and
That's
not what I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's not it.
Like, let me help
Yeah.
diagnose this for you.
Yeah.
You just,
So first thing usually is test anxiety. Oh, I have test anxiety, and then I'm not good at taking tests.
but it's usually not just that.
There's usually I think the figure something like 5% of the population truly has debilitating test anxiety and test taking problems. The rest of us just don't like taking tests. I don't like taking tests. I mean, I was finishing a counseling program and our final exam was 200 multiple choice questions. Now, I had not been in a classroom that had multiple choice questions in 2 years. And I was like, if the correct answer is not there, can we write it in? And he goes, well, the correct answer will be there. But if it's not, can we write it in? And he said, trust me, the correct answer is there. But he goes, yes, oh, for heaven's sakes, if it's not there, write it in. I took 200 questions in 45 minutes and walked up and handed my test. He goes, oh my God, are you finished? I said, yeah, it turns out all the right answers were there. So it was, but my anxiety was over seeing a test that I haven't seen that kind of, everything else was long answer. I mean, I was in criminal justice where everything was a legal answer you had to give and it was long and drawn out. You had to get all these points in. Multiple choice was A, B, C, or D. So kind of surprising.
In getting my group of students ready for their licensure exam, we do a course where we do a lot of test taking analysis. And they take a licensure exam in my class, and then they're not done. You have to go back and look at every question you missed and categorize, give them a key, categorize why you missed it. Because I've got flippers, awesome. Even at my level, I say you're my flipper. You read left, you think right. You read blue, you think green. Like you're not just getting it wrong, you're getting it exactly opposite.
Exactly opposite, yeah.
That's what I see a lot. Missing key words.
Yeah.
You thought that word.
That would be an awesome thing for like the Learning Center to be able to offer, yeah.
That is very eye-opening.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, sometimes I'll make them take a test and, you know, tell me whether it's A, B, C, or D, but then under it, this is part of your grade, you have to tell me why it was B, like justify your answer. Because sometimes they'll get the right answer, but for the wrong reason.
For the wrong reasons. And they need to know that for a board exam. Yeah. So any other things?
One of the easiest ones that classes that I ever took is the instructor gave one question off of his test every day of class.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to, for the bad test takers,
Right.
you got to see, okay, this is how this person's gonna do their test.
So I embed those in my PowerPoint, and then I'll say, okay, the way my classroom is set up is people sit in pairs. So your partner A, your partner B. A's tell B's what the right answer is to this question. And now B's tell A's how to change the question to make C the right answer. Like, how would that question have read differently?
That's pretty
awesome.
You're taking the test every day before you show up to take the test.
Right. And then
That's
you're
cool.
catching where the holes are
Catch,
ahead of time.
and that's great to help them monitor
Yeah.
that test taking. That's awesome.
What do you do with the offended people who they're like, you know, you try to tell them you're not prepared or organized for the next time, and they're like, but you don't understand. You have to help me now. And how do you help those people?
See, and I would not so much tell them as ask them to show me
Okay.
this stuff. Show me where you have this stuff. If you had all of this in place, this would be a piece of cake.
And if they can't show you, then obviously that's the answer.
Yeah.
So, and you're not telling them something,
Right.
they're showing you to. Okay.
So tell them for me to help you, I need you to get these pieces together and come back.
Exactly.
and we will get on this.
Cause literally, before I came, there was a guy that his paper was due in 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And I said, well, your first problem is I've got a workshop to go to in 15 minutes, but, you know, it was due in 30 minutes, I can't really help you. And he was like, he didn't get offended or anything, but I have had them in the past
Sure.
where
Yeah.
they've gotten really agitated.
Well, when you're, I mean, we're all human. We know when we need it out.
Right.
We are looking for that person to blame for us not getting it done.
Yeah.
And, you could be an easy target.
Yeah,
Or
we
you can
are.
say, show me, where all this stuff is,
Yeah.
so we can get started. And when they can't produce it, you're going, see, I gotta have this to help you get here.
Right.
Well, I think we were supposed to cut off about, it's coming up on 2:00, so that other people that need to be other places, but I'd be happy to, you can Google, if you want more information or more detailed stuff than all this. Catherine Lay and myself are the ones who did all this research. You can Google our names, but, it was all research done on BIPSI students. We're just, I'm the end provider because we have unlimited resources here of students to study. And we're actually going to start a study very soon in using graphic representation to convey difficult concepts, to see if students truly are switching more towards graphics than text, to see how that would help students. So, well, I appreciate y'all coming and thanks
Thank you.
for setting this up. Thank you.